YouTube lets certain people say a racial slur and joke about battering kids, but a history teacher can't upload footage of D-Day without getting a strike. Let that satisfying hypocrisy sink in for a second, because it gets worse. Alright, you lot. Welcome back to Scotty McGaming, and this week we're going somewhere most creators wouldn't dare. We're ripping the lid off platform censorship, exposing who actually controls whether your favourite YouTuber gets paid, and explaining why $1 billion corporation just banned a farming tool from its own game because it thought word "oh" were offensive. On top of that, we got your free games roundup for the week, and we're diving into your questions covering everything from Pokemon starters to GoFundMe scams to whether old games are genuinely harder or if your reflexes just got shit. So begin this week, so get yourself comfortable, grab a brew, and put your feet up, because we're not holding back on this one. So, regular thought provoker, ages 444, dropped me a question this week about censorship on YouTube. He asks, I don't know if this topic's gonna fly, but my question is about censorship. I don't give a fuck anymore and say that it's stupid and very, very abused in its use. Nudity is very subjective, because I'm not saying that anyone should be forced to see anything, but holy fuck, context matters. You can't say or refer to AH in any format because he were a bad person. Someone using these topics for disgusting or harmful reasons is one thing, but educational YouTubers that talk about some of these topics are at risk a majority at time with their monetization. It's even making this question hard to understand and phrase since YouTube has very harsh guidelines and context into factor at all. Am I overblowing censorship of YouTube and in bigger ways world as a whole? Or is it as strict as I make it out to be? Now this question sent me down a rabbit hole so deep I came out other side speaking fluent bullshit in 3 different platform dialects. So let's start with something that genuinely makes me want to put my head through a wall. There's a word going round. You've heard it, your kids have probably said it, and it makes me want to scream into a pillar every time it crawls out of someone's mouth. Unalive. Unalive. Let that sink in. Fully grown adults, people with mortgages and driving licenses and presumably functioning brains, are now saying unalive instead of kill or dead or suicide because they're terrified that a fucking algorithm on TikTok is going to bury the video. And fair enough on TikTok. That platform's moderation is so trigger happy it'd ban a weather report for mentioning a cold front in case it were called for something offensive. But here's where it gets properly mental. That fear, that TikTok paranoia, it didn't stay on TikTok. It bled across every platform like linguistic virus. YouTube creators started doing it. Instagram creators started doing it. Now you've got an entire generation of people who say unalive in actual real life conversations. At funerals, in therapy sessions. Your mate's nan dies and some 20-year-old goes, oh no, she unalived. No, she didn't. She died, Karen. She's dead. Set word. It won't summon her back like fucking Beetlejuice. And here's what really gets me. I've been making videos on this channel for a while now. And do you know how many times I've called out people in this industry for committing career suicide? Loads. Multiple videos. Career suicide. Right there. Word and everything. And guess what happened? No. Absolutely not. Still monetized. No yellow icon. No strikes. No stern email from a robot telling me I've hurt an algorithm's feelings. Because YouTube's system isn't actually banning these words. Never were. What happened is creators watched a few people get flagged on TikTok, collectively shat themselves, then voluntarily surrendered language that nobody were actually policing on most platforms. They built their own cage, locked themselves in it, threw away keys, and then complained about how oppressive prison is. Mate, doors open. It's been open this whole time. You just stopped checking because someone on Reddit told you it were locked. Same thing with Austrian painter. You know what I mean? Adolf Hitler. There, I said it. Adolf fucking Hitler. Historical figure. Started a world war. Committed genocide. Died in a bunker like a coward. It's not hate speech. It's a GCSE history lesson. But creators are so terrified of saying his name, they've turned him into Voldemort. Austrian painter. Mustache man. AH. Like they're writing a fucking crossword clue instead of discussing one of the most important and horrific periods in human history. And you know what that does? It don't protect anyone. It don't stop neo-Nazis. It don't prevent radicalisation. All it does is make it harder for normal people to have honest conversations about history, while actual fascists are out there using AI to clone his speeches and getting millions of views because they're smart enough to strip out visual triggers that bots are trained to catch. So well done, everyone. You made Hitler's name scarier and his ideas more accessible. Brilliant strategy. Now, Ages specifically asked whether YouTube censorship is as strict as he thinks. This is where I get to be a smug bastard for a minute. Because my own channel is living proof that it's not, if you know what you're doing. See, a while back I did a video about AI chat bans in gaming. Proper went on it. Language policing, selective enforcement, identity politics in moderation systems. All of it. And in that video, I used an actual racial slur, in context, to make a point about hypocrisy. I said it, it's in video, go watch it, it's still there. And in last week's podcast, I talked about how if I caught my lads cheating with aimbot, conversation would be a luxury they won't be conscious enough to enjoy. Talked about putting them in intensive care. That video, also still up, still monetised, and 0 issues on YouTube and TikTok. So how does a bloke from Barnsley get away with dropping slurs and joking about battering his kids on a platform that supposedly bans everything? This is what Ages 444 needs to hear, because this is where most creators fuck it up. YouTube has something called EDSA, Educational, Documentary, Scientific and Artistic Exception. And it's basically a get-out-of-jail card for anyone smart enough to use it properly. Idea's simple. If your content serves an educational or documentary purpose, you can include material that would normally violate community guidelines. Slurs, graphic imagery, hate speech, violence, all of it. As long as you frame it properly. And it's critical bit that most people miss. That framing can't just be a disclaimer in your description box or a pinned comment saying, "This is educational, please don't ban me, Mr. Algorithm, sir." Nah, for high-risk content, context has to be baked into the video itself. In your voiceover, in your framing, in how you present and contextualise material as you're delivering it. That's exactly what I did with that AI chat bans video. I didn't just drop a slur for shock value and hope for best. I embedded it in an argument about linguistic hypocrisy, surrounded by educational commentary about how moderation systems work. YouTube's system, whether it were bot or a human reviewer, looked at that and went, right, he's making an educational point. Crack on. And that's not me being lucky. That's me understanding how platform actually operates instead of cowering in a corner because someone on Twitter told me you can't say naughty words anymore. Most creators don't get banned for what they say. They get demonetised for how they say it. Context ain't just king. It's entire fucking monarchy. And if you don't understand that, you're going to spend your whole career speaking in code like a Cold War spy trying to order a sandwich. But let's get real spicy, because not all platforms are created equal, and this is something that drives me absolutely mental. YouTube, for all its faults, and there are plenty, at least gives you a path through. EDSA exists, self-certification exists, appeals exist. Systems are bureaucratic nightmares, sure. It's like trying to file your taxes through Edge Maze while someone throws peas at you, but there is a path. You can navigate it. I've proven that. My channel is living, breathing, swearing proof. TikTok don't give you a path. TikTok gives you a wall. And behind that wall's another wall. And behind that wall's a bloke who don't speak your language, shrugging and pressing denied. I mentioned Tommy Robinson in a TikTok video. Not praising him, not condemning him, just said his name. Gone. Video removed. No appeal, no context. No, but sir, I was making an educational point about free speech. Just gone. Name on a list. Algorithm triggered. Content erased. And this is a publicly known political figure who's been in every news channel, had documentaries made about him, been discussed in Parliament. But apparently saying his name on TikTok is worse than me joking about hospitalising my children for using aimbot. Think about that. Let it really sink in. I can joke about child violence on TikTok and that's fine. I say a political figure's name and it's removed. That's not content moderation. That's political censorship with a smiley face emoji slapped on top. And then you got X, formerly Twitter, where Elon's basically running a digital Thunderdome. He ripped out trust and safety infrastructure, replaced it with crowdsourced community notes, and called it free speech. Which sounds great until you realise that actual neo-Nazi propaganda is running absolutely rampant on there with nobody fact-checking it, while he's simultaneously suing news networks for coverage he don't like. That's not free speech, that's my speech. And Meta, Facebook and Instagram run this thing called Dangerous Organisations and Individuals list, which is basically a blacklist so broad and so aggressively automated that it accidentally suppresses legitimate news reporting, academic discussion, and even satirical content that's explicitly mocking fascism. Their own oversight board has called them out on it multiple times, and they just shrug and carry on. But wait, there's more. And this is where it gets really dark. And this is where all that research I did really earns its keep. Because everything I've talked about so far, algo-speak, self-censorship, platform inconsistency, all of it pales in comparison to what I'm about to tell you. Back in 2019, YouTube went on an absolute rampage against hate speech. Good intentions, right? Get rid of neo-Nazi propaganda, white supremacist content, Holocaust denial. Nobody's arguing with that goal. Problem is, they let bots do it. And bots are thick as pig shit. Bots don't understand context. Bots see a swastika and go, bad. Don't matter if that swastika's in a documentary about liberating Auschwitz, or a GCSE history presentation, or a BBC archive from 1945. Bot sees symbol, bot deletes video. Bot moves on to ruin someone else's day. And that's exactly what happened. History teachers, actual professional educators, people with qualifications and classrooms full of students who relied on their content, got their entire channels deleted overnight. Bloke called Mr. Allsop History, used by schools globally. Nuked. Archival footage of Hitler's speeches that had been on YouTube for years as historical reference. Gone. Vintage BBC documentaries. Gone. Joseph Goebbels' propaganda reels that historians use to teach students how manipulation works. Gone. Years of educational content, carefully curated, properly contextualised, wiped out by a bot that can't tell the difference between a history teacher and a skinhead. Some of them got the channels back after public outcry and manual appeals, but damage were done. Chilling effects settled in like cold fog. And to this day, in 2026, history creators are still terrified. They're over-contextualising everything, slapping disclaimers on every frame, speaking in code about one of the most well-documented periods in human history, because they know that one false move and years of work disappears. And here's the bit that should make your blood boil. While legitimate history teachers are jumping through hoops and walking on eggshells just to teach kids about World War II, actual neo-Nazi networks are running rings around the same system. Researchers at Institute of Strategic Dialogue documented how these groups started using AI voice cloning software, tools like 11 Labs, to take Hitler's original German speeches, translate them into perfect, fluent, emotionally resonant English, then pair them with trendy visuals, vaporwave graphics, TikTok music, aesthetic landscape footage. No swastikas, no SS uniforms, no historical footage, note that bots are trained to catch. These videos rack up tens of millions of views across TikTok, X, YouTube Shorts, all of it. Millions of young people hearing Hitler's ideology repackaged as content, slipping straight past every filter. While a history teacher in Manchester can't upload footage of D-Day without getting a strike. Platform built a system that punishes people trying to educate and rewards people trying to radicalise. And that's not a broken system, it's an inverted one. That's a system doing exact opposite of what it was designed to do, and nobody in charge seems to give enough for a shit to fix it. And it's the final piece of this fucked up puzzle, and it's biggest one. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Everything I've talked about, EDSA, algo-speak, platform inconsistency, history teachers getting nuked, all of it connects back to one thing. Money. Specifically, advertising money. And more specifically, a framework most of you never heard of called GARM, Global Alliance for Responsible Media. Sounds very official, doesn't it? Very serious. Very, we care about safety. GARM was set up in 2019 by World Federation of Advertisers, which is basically a consortium of massive multinational brands. Coca-Cola, Toyota, Unilever, working with ad agencies to create a standardised system for deciding what content their ads can appear next to. And that system is what actually controls what gets monetised and what doesn't on YouTube. See, most creators think YouTube decides whether their video makes money. It doesn't. Not really. GARM does. GARM created this two-tier system. Bottom tier is brand safety floor, which is basically a list of content so horrific that no advertiser will touch it. Child abuse material, terrorism, illegal arms sales, that sort of thing. Fair enough. Nobody's arguing that. But above that floor is brand stability framework. This is where it gets properly dystopian. This framework lets individual advertisers dial their risk tolerance up or down across 12 different content categories. So, an energy drink brand might tolerate mild swearing and violence, while a children's toy brand wants absolute sterility. And YouTube's algorithm is constantly, in real time, trying to categorise every single video uploaded to platform and map it into these GARM risk tiers, so when an advertiser's programmatic bidding system comes along, it knows whether to place an ad or not. That yellow demonetisation icon that creators dread, that's not YouTube saying, your content's bad. That's YouTube saying, our algorithm has decided that most advertisers' GARM settings won't allow their ads next to your video. It's not a moral judgment, it's an economic one. And that means conversations about war crimes, discussions about suicide prevention, documentaries about genocide, clinical sex education, all of it gets financially strangled. Not because it's wrong or harmful or offensive, but because Coca-Cola don't want their logo appearing next to a discussion about Holocaust. History teacher can't pay their bills because a fizzy drink company don't want bad associations. And that's not censorship in any traditional sense. There's no government official, no moral authority, no democratic process deciding what you can and can't say. It's advertising executives, blokes in suits who've probably never watched a YouTube video in their lives, sat in a boardroom deciding which words are too spicy for their quarterly earnings call. And platforms fold to it because advertisers are ones writing checks. So, ages, you're not overblowing it, but you're misidentifying it. What most people call censorship on YouTube isn't some shadowy government crackdown on free speech. It's economic suffocation by an advertising framework that treats human history and clinical education as brand unsafe commodities. And layered on top of that's a collective psychological surrender by creators who've been so terrorised by inconsistent enforcement that they preemptively abandon language nobody actually banned. You've got a system where creators are scared of words that are allowed, history teachers getting punished for being accurate, neo-Nazis getting rewarded for being clever, and entire things driven not by morality or safety, but by whether Toyota wants its ad next to your video about World War II. That's reality. It's more absurd, more broken, more flexible than most people realise. Because step one is understanding how it actually works. Now you do. And honestly, this whole segment probably proves its own point, doesn't it? I've sat here talking about Hitler, racial slurs, child violence, neo-Nazi propaganda, and advertising conspiracies, completely unfiltered. And if you're watching this, it means it's still up, which either means EDSA works, or YouTube's algorithm's having a day off and I'm absolutely fucked by Tuesday. Either way, it's been a laugh. Cheers for your question, ages, mate. Genuinely one at best I've had. You've sparked a segment that I think every creator on every platform needs to watch. And see, that question leads us into this question by Shirks Direwolf. They ask, hey Scotty, what do you think of Mojang's censorship of servers hosted by others? Like Anarchy Server 2B2T, now having such heavy censorship you can't type ass or furry. Right, Shirks. Honestly, it's like Universe decided to give me a double-barreled shotgun and bollocks to unpack. Because what's happening with Minecraft right now is everything we just talked about with YouTube censorship, but cranked up to a level so absurd I genuinely had to check I wasn't reading satire. So let me walk you through what's actually happening here, because it's worse than you think. 2B2T, for anyone who doesn't know, is oldest Anarchy server in Minecraft. 15 years old, founded in 2010, over 1 million players have been on it. World maps over 8 terabytes. And Anarchy meant exactly what it sounds like. No rules, no mods, no admins interfering. You want to grief someone's build? Go for it. Want to spam chat with whatever deranged nonsense crawls out your brain? Fill your boots. Hacking tools? Allowed. It were digital chaos, and that were entire point. It were famous for it. YouTubers built careers covering it. It was, genuinely, one of the last truly unfiltered spaces in gaming. Was. Past tense. Because in December 2025, Mojang, under Microsoft's thumb, reached out to 2B2T and basically said, moderate your chat or we blacklist your server from official launcher and you lose every player overnight. And 2B2T, a server that survived 15 years of griefing, hacking, and absolute bedlam, folded. Had to. Had no choice. They slapped in a word filter and updated the rules to ban harmful ideas, hateful symbols, or hateful speech. Which sounds reasonable until you find out what's actually on that filter list. You can't type ass in Minecraft chat now. Ass. A 3-letter word that describes a donkey, which is an actual animal in the game. You can ride one. You can breed them. But God forbid you type its name in chat or filter loses its mind. You can't type furry. Not a slur, not an attack. Just a word describing a subculture that, love them or hate them, and don't ought to deserve being linguistically erased from a block game. And here's my personal favourite. You can't type O. O. H-O-E. A hoe. It's a farming tool. It's in the game. You can craft it. You can use it to till soil. It's been in Minecraft since day bastard 1. But some genius at Microsoft decided that word's too dangerous for chat. So now you can't even discuss basic game mechanics without tripping a filter that thinks you're being offensive. Imagine being a word filter so thick that you ban vocabulary from your own game. That's like a dictionary censoring itself. Or Scrabble removing tiles because someone might spell something naughty. And this ain't just 2B2T. Mojang went after Minecraft Online first, back in October 2025. Oldest survival server in Minecraft history sent an email to their mod team basically saying, start policing chat and behaviour or we cut you off. So this is a deliberate systemic campaign by Microsoft to bring every server, public, private, anarchy, don't matter, under their content moderation umbrella. And shirks, you asked specifically about private servers. Like if you set one up for you and your mates, all adults, why would you be censored? And that's where my research actually gave us a useful answer. Because technically, on Java Edition, you can disable Enforce Secure Profile in your server properties, or use mods like No Chat Reports to strip out Mojang's oversight. That mod's been downloaded 94 million times, by the way, which tells you exactly how popular this corporate chat policing is with actual players. But here's the problem. You shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to install a third-party mod on your server that you're hosting on your hardware for your adult friends. Just so you can type, oh, we are a billion-dollar corporation deciding you've been naughty. That's not moderation, it's occupation. And you want to know why this is really happening? It's not because Microsoft's only gives a toss about toxicity. They didn't care for 15 years. Because of two things happening at once. First, 2B2T opened up to Bedrock Edition in December 2025, which means console players, which means younger players flooding in, which means Microsoft's ass is now legally exposed if 12-year-olds read something spicy in chat. Fair enough, protect kids, nobody's arguing with that. But second, and this is big one, it's OSA, Online Safety Act. Again, same piece of UK legislation that's been fucking up everything it touches since it got teeth in 2025. Ofcom, which is UK's communication regulator, now has power to fine companies up to 18 million quid, or 10% of global revenue, for serious breaches. 10% of Microsoft's global revenue. Think about that number for a second. Microsoft made over $200 billion last year. 10% of that's enough to make any legal team on earth shit glass. So, Microsoft's response in, let's build smart, context-aware moderation that protects kids while respecting adults. Microsoft's response is, censor everything, everywhere, for everyone. And if a farming tool gets caught in crossfire, who cares? At least Ofcom can't touch us. And it gets even better for UK players specifically. Since February 2026, every Minecraft player in UK with an adult account has to verify their age through a third-party service called Yachty. You have to hand over biometric data or government ID just to use chat in a blocked game. If you refuse, because maybe you're not comfortable uploading your face or your passport to a company you've never heard of just to talk to your mates while placing virtual bricks, you lose access to chat, messaging, Discord integration, looking for group features, and streaming. You can still play, you just can't speak. Microsoft literally muted an entire country's player base and said, prove you're an adult or sit in silence. And they've already said if it works in UK, they'll roll it out to more regions. So, rest of the world, don't get comfortable, your turn's coming. So, Shirkstyle Wolf, to answer your question properly, what do I think of Mojang's censorship as servers hosted by others? I think it's corporate cowardice dressed up as child protection, driven by a UK law that treats every online interaction like a potential crime scene, enforced by a parent company so terrified of regulatory fines that it'd rather ban word O from a farming game than build a system that can tell the difference between a 12-year-old and a 35-year-old. I think private servers for consenting adults being subjected to the same content filters as public spaces full of children is intellectually bankrupt. I think 15 years of anarchy dying overnight because Microsoft's legal department had a panic attack is tragedy for gaming culture, regardless of how you feel about what went on in those servers. And I think if you're on Java Edition and you're running your own server for your own mates, install no chat reports. Disable Enforce Secure Profile. Take your digital sovereignty back. Because if you're waiting for Microsoft to treat you like an adult, you'll be waiting until Minecraft's blocks around. Shirts, cheers for the question, mate. Proper good one. Now then, let's have a look at what's free this week. Because if you're not claiming free games in 2026, you're literally leaving money on the table. And I will judge you for it. Starting with Epic Games Store. This week, the getting away turnip boy robs a bank. Yeah, that right. You play as a turnip who robs a bank. We're a pickled gang. Look, I know how that sounds, but hear me out. This is proper pixel art chaos. A roguelike where you're shaking down hostages, stealing valuables, battling police, and buying tools off dark web to break deeper into vaults or a botanical bank. It's weird as hell. It's funny. And if you're into RPG roguelike style with a bit of absurdist humour thrown in, you'll have a blast with it. It's free, so there's literally no excuse not to claim it. Worst case scenario, you've added something daft to your library that you might boot up one bored Sunday afternoon and end up losing 3 hours to. Best case, you discover your new favourite indie gem. Just grab it. Also on Epic this week is one's genuinely mental value. The giving away Wrestling's Renown Pack for Idle Champions at Forgotten Realms. Now if you've never touched Idle Champions, this is your excuse to start. Because this pack is worth over $100 and all you gotta do is log in through Epic Games Store between now and March 12th to claim it. You get Wrestling Major, who's first the Heroes of Lance Champions, plus Gale, Spurt, Briv and Eliwick. 32 platinum chests for each of them, 2 week-long potions, and an exclusive Baz Draconian Familiar. Over 100 quid's worth of stuff for pressing a button. You'd have to be absolutely mad not to claim that, even if you've got no interest in game right now. Claim it anyway. Future you might thank present you for having some sense. Now let's swing over to Amazon Prime Gaming. And if you've got a Prime subscription, you should be checking this every single week because they quietly drop some proper decent stuff in there. First up is Siege of Avalon Anthology. And you're getting this as a GOG code, so it's DRM free, which is always a win. This is a classic RPG, proper old school, and you're getting full anthology here. Chapters 1, 2 and 6 take you through the main story, while chapters 3, 4 and 5 are expansions that dig deeper into lore and side adventures. If you're into that old school isometric RPG feel, it's worth a claim. It's not going to blow your mind with fancy graphics, but if story and lore are your thing, there's a good chunk of content here for now. Next from Prime is Tattoo Tycoon, redeemed through Epic Games. It's a business sim where you build and run your own tattoo shop. You're launching marketing campaigns, building personal connections, growing your reputation through word of mouth. And if you get good enough, you can enter some prestigious tattoo competition called Inkvasion. Look, it's not going to be for everyone. Tycoon games are a very specific niche. But if you're one of those people who loses entire weekends into management sims, this might be for you. Free's free, innit? And last, but definitely not least from Prime, also through Epic Games, Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, a Wonderland's one-shot adventure. Now this one's actually a proper shout. If you've ever played Borderlands 2, you'll know Tiny Tina's DLC were widely considered one of the best pieces of DLC ever made. This is basically a standalone version of that experience. You're blasting through forests, crypts, and fortresses in a tabletop RPG setting narrated by Tina herself, who's constantly changing rules and throwing chaos at you because that's just what she does. It's fun, it's funny, it's got that Borderlands gunplay, and it's completely free with your Prime sub. If you haven't played it before, Genuinely, grab this one. It's a belter. So that's your free games roundup for this week. 2 from Epic, 3 from Amazon Prime. Not a single penny required for any of them. There's absolutely zero reason to not be claiming these, even if you never play after them. You're building a library for free, while everyone else is out there paying 70 quid for half-finished AAA garbage. Be smart, claim your stuff, move on. Now, back to your questions. And we've got a question from my mate Firkinell. He asks, "Hey Scotty, I just started playing, testing it out, World War Legion, free to play. Have you heard of it? And have you played it? If so, what's your general opinion?" So, for anyone who ain't come across this yet, World War Legion is a free-to-play World War II shooter on Steam from a studio called Alpha Bravo Inc. Same people who made Combat Master. And let's talk about Combat Master first, because that's important context. Combat Master is another free-to-play FPS that, and I'll die on this hill, feels more like a proper Call of Duty experience than actual Call of Duty does nowadays. People have described it as a better COD 2019. And honestly, for a lot of those OGs, that's not exactly high bar to clear, is it? Modern Warfare 2019 were alright, but let's not pretend it was some untouchable masterpiece. It was just less shit than what came after it. Combat Master took that formula, stripped out all corporate greed, just gave you a solid shooter. What a concept! Now, World War Legion is basically Alpha Bravo doing the same thing, but a World War II skin on it. And here's what's interesting about it. This game hasn't grabbed massive mainstream attention, and honestly, that might be the best thing going for it right now. Because what happens every time a shooter gets popular? Cheaters flood in, community turns toxic, and suddenly you can't play 2 rounds without some wall-hacking dickhead ruining your evening. World War Legion's community is apparently quite close-knit, friendly, and from what I've seen, it's attracting a lot of classic COD fans who just want to enjoy that old-school World War II feeling without all baggage that comes with AAA title. Genuinely refreshing. And let's talk about specs for a second, because this is something that don't get enough credit. Minimum requirements on this thing are Core 2 Duo processor, 4GB of RAM, and a DirectX 9 compatible graphics card with 256MB of VRAM. 2GB install size. That's it. You could run this on a laptop finding a skip. You could run it on a calculator with ambitions. Alpha Bravo literally built a multiplayer shooter that looks decent and runs on hardware from 2006. Meanwhile, Activision needs you to sacrifice 200GB of SSD space and a decent graphics card just to sit in a lobby to watch a shader installation bar crawl across your screen like it's got nowhere to be. There's even Linux and Mac support back way, which again, just shows you what happens when developers actually gear toss about accessibility instead of treating PC as an afterthought. Now, I will say this because I think it's a fair criticism and a few people in the community have said it too. It probably would have been better as an add-on or mode within Combat Master rather than a standalone game. I get what Alpha Bravo are going for. Separate identity, separate branding, fair enough. But reality is players who are already invested in Combat Master aren't going to split their time between 2 games from the same studio doing essentially the same thing in different eras. And you can see that in multiplayer counts. World War Legion's numbers are pretty thin. Reviews on Steam are sat at mixed overall, 65% positive, though recent reviews have climbed to mostly positive at 75%. So it's trending in the right direction, but that low population's a problem for a multiplayer-only shooter. And consolidating into Combat Master might have given it a bigger pool to swim in from day one. And yeah, before anyone asks, Scotty, have you played it? No, I haven't. And I'm honest about that, because I'm not going to sit here and pretend I've got 300 hours in something I've never booted up. But it is one I genuinely should get into. It fits perfectly into my stance of not buying premium games anymore. It's free to play done properly where you don't need to spend a penny to be competitive. And it's a proper FPS experience built by people who clearly love shooters and aren't trying to rinse your wallet every 5 minutes. No greed, no manipulation, just fun gameplay, as gaming should be. So cheers for putting it on my radar properly, mate. I reckon a few folk watching this might want to give it a look too. And honestly, worst case scenario, you've lost naught but 2GB download and 20 minutes of your life. Best case, found a new go-to shooter. Can't argue with that. Now, this one's a bit different from our usual gaming chat, but it's a proper important one. Silver Bullet 90 asks, "Hey Scotty, I need help setting up a GoFundMe for my significant other to help get him a vehicle and a year of food. Can you give me any tips on where to reach out and get most exposure?" First off, mate, that's a genuinely awesome thing you're trying to do. Proper kudos to you for stepping up like that for your other half. It's right selfless, and I respect it massively. So let me give you best advice I can here, because I've actually had some experience sharing and promoting fundraisers for people I care about. And there's stuff you need to know that nobody tells you until it's too late. So to get maximum exposure for a GoFundMe, you want to be prioritising short-form video content. TikTok and YouTube Shorts are great for that. A genuine, heartfelt 30-second video explaining why this matters and where that money's going. That can absolutely blow up if it hits right. Don't over-polish it either. People can smell a scripted sub-story from a mile away. Just be real, be honest, explain the situation, and let people connect with it naturally. Beyond that, Reddit's got some useful communities for this sort of thing. Places like Subreddit Assistance and Subreddit Charity exist specifically for people in your situation. But, and this is important, they've got strict registration rules and verification process you need to follow to the letter. Don't just rock up and drop a link, you'll get removed instantly and probably banned. Read the rules, provide clear proof of need, be transparent about every penny. Because trust is everything when you're asking strangers to open the wallets. On a local level, and people massively overlook this, use Nextdoor. That app is basically your neighbourhood in digital form. And people on there are far more likely to help someone in their own community than some random person on internet. Physical flyers with QR codes in community hubs, local shops, churches, food banks. All of that works too. There's something about physical presence that builds a stronger personal connection than any algorithm ever will. Now, how you frame this campaign matters a lot. Don't just say, we need money for a car and food. Explain exactly how that vehicle changes her life. Does it get her to work? Does it open up job opportunities she can't reach right now? Frame it around long-term impact, independence, stability. People don't just want to donate to a problem. They want to invest in a solution. Show them that their 20 quid isn't just buying a tank of fuel. It's part of a springboard that gets someone back on the feet properly. One tactic that genuinely works is what I'd call a community takeover. Get your mates, get channel members if you've got them, get family, and coordinate a time where everyone shares that link simultaneously. When platforms see a sudden spike of engagement around a single link, algorithms pick it up and push it further. Creates that sense of urgent momentum that makes other people go, hang on, what's everyone sharing? Let me have a look. That snowball effect is powerful. But here's the bit that I really need you to hear, mate, because this is where it gets dark, and I've seen this happen firsthand. You need to watch out for fake donors. And I'm not talking about someone pledging a fiver and not following through. I'm talking about sophisticated chargeback scams and refund fraud that can genuinely leave you worse off than when you started. Way it works is some scumbag makes a large donation, right? Looks amazing. You're buzzing. Then they contact you directly saying, oh sorry, I accidentally overpaid. Can you refund me the difference through Zelle or Cash App? Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? Except once you send that money through an external app, they then dispute original GoFundMe transaction with the bank, get the full donation reversed, and now you're out of pocket for both amounts. You've lost money you never actually had, plus money you actually did have. It's absolutely vile. And it gets worse. If your campaign unknowingly accepts donations from stolen credit cards, and you'd have no way of knowing, subsequent bank reversals can trigger admin fees on your account or even get your entire campaign frozen. All that momentum, all that legitimate donations from good people, locked up because some thieving bastard used someone else's card details to look generous. So, golden rule. Never refund a donor through any platform other than GoFundMe's own official internal system. If someone contacts you asking for an external refund, no matter how convincing their story is, tell them to sort it through GoFundMe directly. If they kick off about that, they were trying to scam you. Legitimate donors don't care which channel a refund comes through. And be wary of suspiciously large contributions from strangers who immediately reach out with complex stories about why they need some merit back. That's a red flag size of a football pitch. It's truly a thoughtful and fantastic gesture on your part, mate. Just please, be careful with how you handle it. Keep everything on official channels. Don't let anyone pressure you into external transactions. It should be alright. I genuinely wish you best of luck with it, mate. I hope it smashes its target and your other half gets sorted proper. Cheers for the question, mate. Now then, Fixer2616 asks, did you see new Pokemon Wind and Waves? And which starter is your favourite? Yeah, mate, I've seen it. And honestly, looks like it could be a proper good addition to the franchise. Game Freak finally showed it off at Pokemon Presents for Pokemon Day, 30th anniversary and all that. And what we got were a glimpse of a new region based on Southeast Asia. Tropical islands, underwater exploration, lava caverns, lush jungle. All of it looks genuinely gorgeous on Switch 2 hardware, and it's not coming till 2027. Which means they're actually giving themselves development time for once, instead of rushing it out the door, out together with sellotape and prayers like Scarlet and Violet were. So that alone gives me a bit of hope. But let's talk starters, because that's what you're really asking about, innit? We've got 3 new Gen 10 starters. Sprout, grumpy looking little grass type bird. Sort of a bean sprout chick thing with leafy eyebrows. Bonbon, fire type puppy that's basically a Pomeranian someone left too close to a radiator. And Gecko, a water-type gecko with big eyes and apparently a bit of an attitude problem. Described as shrewd and putting on airs. So basically, a lizard with a god complex. Now here's my dilemma. I'm a fire-type man. Always have been. Every generation. First instinct. Grab Firestarter. No hesitation. But Bonbon? It's a cute little Pomeranian-looking dog. And look, I'm not about to spend an entire Pokemon journey running around with a fluffy lapdog, am I? That's not happening. I don't care how adorable it is. I got a reputation to maintain. So that rules fire out for me this time, which genuinely feels weird to say. So that leaves Sprout and Gecko. Sprout's a little bird, and yeah, it's fine. But we literally had Rowlet 3 generations ago, and another owl-type starter feels like Game Freak's recycling bin is getting a workout. Plus it's categorised as a bean chick Pokemon. And I'm sorry, but I can't take that seriously. I'm not going into battle with something called Bean Chick. I'd get laughed at of whatever region this is. So, Gecko it is. Water-type gecko. Never been a massive water-type fan, if I'm being honest. But I've always had at least one in my collection, cause you'd be a fool not to carry every type. That's just basic Pokemon strategy, innit? You want to be a proper Pokemon master? Gotta catch 'em all. And more importantly, you've gotta have your bases covered. Gecko's got that sly, intelligent look about it. Apparently launches springy water balls from its tail. And honestly, there's something about a cocky little gecko that appeals to me more than a beanbag chick or a decorative dog. But I'll be straight with you, mate. I get properly confused with all of them these days. My time with Pokemon? 150. That were it. That were all you needed to remember. Bulbasaur through Mew. Done. Sorted. Lovely. Now there's what? Over 1,000 of them? Different regions, mythical ones, legendary ones, regional variants, mega evolutions, Gigantamax forms. Now Gen 10's about to pile even more on top. I'm too old to be memorising all that. My brain's already full of enough useless information without trying to remember what type of advantage a Fido has over a Ceruledge or whatever nonsense they've cooked up. I'll stick with originals up to Mewtwo. That's all I need in Pokemon World. Actually, I tell a lie. I'll stretch to Pokemon Colosseum with Epsilon and Umbreon. I were good with those ones. That GameCube era was something special, wasn't it? Proper underrated entries in franchise. Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness. Dark Pokemon. Shadow Pokemon. A protagonist who wants a 10-year-old child for once. Brilliant stuff. But beyond that? Nah, I'm out. Too many creatures. Not enough brain cells left after years of gaming and shouting at idiots on internet. Cheers for the question, mate. Now then, Connor Stevenson asks, hey Scotty, do you think older games are harder than newer games? Old games with limited lives, etc. Mate, I don't think they were harder. I know they were. And I'll tell you exactly why. Because it's not just some rose-tinted back in my day nonsense. There's actual history behind it. Once you understand it, you'll never look at your old NES cartridges in the same way. See, classic games genuinely were more difficult. But here's a bit most people don't talk about. That difficulty wasn't always there because developers wanted to craft some perfectly balanced challenge for you to overcome. A lot of it came down to 2 things. Business, hardware limitations. When you understand those 2 forces, all picture changes. Let's start with where it all began. Arcades. Early home console games inherited their DNA directly from arcade cabinets. And arcade cabinets had one job. Extract money from your pocket. That's it. That's entire design philosophy. The game was too easy. Some kid could sit there for an hour in a single coin. And that machine's not making money while he's hogging it. So, developers intentionally made games ruthless and punishingly hard. You die fast. You put another coin in. Revenue keeps flowing. And when those same developers started making games for home consoles, they didn't just flip a switch and go, right, let's make it fair now. They carried that exact same philosophy over. Games like Ghosts and Goblins, Battletoads, Mega Man. Those games weren't hard because the developers thought you'd enjoy failing 47 times in the same section. They were hard because that's all they knew. Arcade DNA were baked into everything. And then there's storage. This is one people don't consider. Early game cartridges had absolutely tiny amounts of storage space. Classic 8-bit game might genuinely only contain about 20 minutes of unique level design. 20 minutes, that's it. But you're charging people full retail price for this thing. So how do you justify that? You artificially inflate playtime through extreme difficulty. You make players fail over and over and over again, forcing them to memorise every pattern, every enemy placement, every pixel perfect jump, just to beat what fundamentally is a very short game. You weren't battling a grand adventure, you were battling repetition dressed up as challenge. Most of us didn't even realise it at the time because we had naught to compare it to. On top of all that, older games completely lacked quality of life features we take for granted now. There were no autosaves. Checkpoints were rare if they existed at all. You had a limited number of lives, and if you burned through them, that were it. Game over. Back to the title screen. Start again from scratch. All that progress gone. Imagine playing a modern game for 3 hours and then being told, "Sorry mate, you died. Start over from beginning." You'd launch your controller through a window. But back then, that was just normal. That was Tuesday. And let's not sugarcoat reality or early technology either. A lot of the time, a classic game felt hard simply because controls were stiff as a board. Hit detection were all over the shop. Or screen turned into a slideshow whenever too many sprites appeared at once. How many times did you die in an old game and genuinely think, "That wasn't my fault, game just screwed me"? Loads. 'Cause it did. Slow down, dodgy collision boxes, input lag on cheap controllers, all of it contributed to difficulty that wasn't designed. It were accidental. You weren't being outplayed by a clever game design. You were being sabotaged by hardware that couldn't keep up with what developers were trying to do. Now, gaming's taken a massive leap since then. This is where it gets interesting. Developers today understand something that early devs either didn't know or didn't care about. Frustration don't automatically equal fun. Revolutionary concept, I know. Modern games want you to experience story, see ending, feel like your time were valued. You can usually tailor experience with difficulty sliders, accessibility options, all sorts of settings that suit exactly how you want to play. Autosaves and frequent checkpoints mean when you do fail, you lose a couple of minutes, not 3 hours. Modern controls are incredibly responsive, so when you make a mistake, you know it was your mistake. Game didn't cheat you, you just messed up. Own it, learn from it, go again. But here's the thing, and this is important because people love to say, modern games are too easy, like it's some universal truth. Absolute bollocks! Look at Dark Souls, look at Elden Ring, look at Sekiro, look at Cuphead, look at Celeste. These are modern games that are absolutely brutal and have been massively successful. Millions of copies sold. Players love them. Difference is, that difficulty is meticulously balanced. It's intentional. It's fair. When you die in Dark Souls, you know exactly why and what you need to do differently. When you died in Battletoads on that speeder bike level, half the time it would cost game decided your inputs didn't count this time. That's not challenge, it's a coin flip with extra steps. So yeah, Connor, classic games were definitely harder. But that difficulty were often a mask for technical constraints, business models designed to drain your wallet, and storage limitations that force developers to pad runtime with punishment. Modern game design is simply smarter. It respects your time while still offering an option for an absolute brutal challenge if you want one. Old games were harder. Modern games are designed better. Both things can be true at the same time. Cheers for the question, Connor. Proper good one that I think a lot of us older gamers have thought about but never really broken down like that. I want to take a second to say a proper thank you to everyone who sent in questions this week. You brought something different to the table and I genuinely love that. Those censorship segments alone could be their own documentary. That's down to you lot pushing me to dig deeper. So cheers. Seriously, keep them coming. And speaking of appreciation, massive shout out to my legendary members. James Lima, Perkinell, Silver Bullet 90, Asian Persuasion and Scotty Seether. Yeah, backbone of this channel, lads. You back what we're building here, and it's truly appreciated. I don't take that for granted, not for a single second. And to all 2014 subscribers, 2014 of you have hit button and said, yeah, alright, I'm in. You're awesome. Every single one of you. That number keeps climbing and it's cost this community is built on something real. Not clickbait, not algorithms, just honest conversation and a shared love of gaming. That means more to me than any inflated number ever could. And then there's you. Yeah, you. You know who you are. You're part of that 61.6% who aren't subscribed yet, but you're still here, still watching, still spending your time with me. And honestly, that means something as well. Time's valuable. You're choosing to spend some of yours here. But if you enjoyed this one, YouTube says you'll like one showing on screen right now. So go watch that, and I'll see you there, you magnificent.